Elon Musk spent a week living in one of the poorest neighborhoods in America, the Bronx, and his experience is bound to leave an impact on you. Before we dive in, please hit the subscribe button and let us know where you're watching from in the comments. Elon Musk, the enigmatic billionaire known for pushing the boundaries of technology, was no stranger to bold ideas. But when he received an anonymous proposal for a social experiment, it piqued his curiosity in a way he hadn't experienced in years. The challenge was unprecedented. For 1 week, he would leave behind his wealth, his luxury lifestyle, and his tech-driven routines to live anonymously in one of America's most impoverished areas. Stripped of his resources, name, and influence, Elon would rely solely on his wits and the kindness of strangers to survive, with the only stipulation being that he document every struggle and insight he encountered. At first, Elon hesitated. He had spent his life pursuing monumental achievements like building electric cars, launching rockets, and imagining a future of interplanetary colonization. But something about this experiment stirred him. What was the point of reaching for Mars, he wondered, if life on Earth was so deeply unequal? This experiment was a chance to see the world through a new lens. With curiosity, some apprehension, and a desire to challenge his own perspective, he agreed. Beatrice, on the day of his departure, Elon left behind his billionaire lifestyle. No private jets, no Tesla, no assistants, and boarded a train to New York, carrying only a small backpack with second-hand clothes, a prepaid phone, and $50 in cash. Upon arriving in the Bronx, the stark contrast to his usual surroundings was immediate. Gone were the structures of Silicon Valley and the pristine laboratories of SpaceX. In their place were crowded streets, crumbling buildings, and a palpable energy that he couldn't quite define. His new home was a modest one-bedroom apartment in a dilapidated building, the air thick with the smell of mildew. The space was barely furnished with a sagging mattress, a flickering light, and a radiator that groaned intermittently. Coming from the sleek minimalism of his Los Angeles mansion, it was a jarring shift. Elon spent the first hour pacing the tiny apartment, grappling with the reality of his new life. His first foray into the neighborhood was equally unsettling. The streets were full of life. Children playing, vendors selling their goods, and groups of people deep in conversation. He felt like an outsider, holding tightly to his $50, and made his way to a corner store to buy groceries. Prices were a shock. Milk, bread, and peanut butter nearly wiped out half of his funds. He left the store with an empty stomach, realizing that every decision this week would be a matter of survival. That evening, the silence in his apartment was unnerving. Accustomed to the constant hum of innovation, he found the isolation unsettling. As he sat on the edge of his mattress, scribbling his first thoughts in a notebook, he confronted feelings of vulnerability. For the first time in decades, he had no control, no influence, and no safety net. The world he had entered was unforgiving and its demands were far beyond his usual experience. Despite the challenges, a spark of excitement ignited within him. On the second day, Elon woke early to the sounds of arguments and heavy footsteps in the hallways. His sleep had been restless, but a strange sense of determination stirred within him. His first day had been about adjusting to this new reality. Today, he would take action and try to understand how people survived and thrived in such a resource-scarce environment. With just $28 left from his original $50, he knows he had to make ways from his original $50. He knew he had to find ways to earn money to eat. His first stop was a small bodega where he saw a help wanted sign. The store's owner, an elderly man named Mr. Alvarez, eyed Elon with suspicion at first. After a brief conversation, Mr. Alvarez agreed to let Elon help restock shelves and organize the back room for a few hours in exchange for $15. The work was tougher than Elon expected, but he found a surprising sense of satisfaction in the labor. $15 was about the lowest expectation at first, and he allowed the man to help him each one of the lines of the pistol. By the time he left with cash in hand, he felt a small surge of pride. It wasn't launching rockets, but it was honest work. Later, Iran wandered to a busy intersection where street vendors were selling their goods. He struck up a conversation with a young man named Malik who was selling pirated DVDs. Malik handed him a stack of DVDs and put him to work directing customers. For the next 2 hours, Iran wandered to a busy intersection where street vendors were selling DVDs and pitching to the only heirs. This place is illogical for me. He marveled at Malik's adaptability in the ebb and flow of business, adjusting prices and tactics on the fly. Oh. The day took a profound turn when Elon met Teresa, a single mother of 3 running a food stand. She worked 3 jobs to support her family and still found time to prepare food for the stand each day. "You've got to keep moving, keep grinding," she told Elon with a weary smile. Her words resonated with him as he walked back to his apartment, pockets heavier with the small cash he earned but mind weighed down with newfound insights. The hustle wasn't just about survival. It was a culture, a way of life born out of necessity, fueled by resilience. Shakespeare Julian's love for the European culture and faith, perhaps it pushed him to stop cooking rather than continuing in button cushions. As the third day unfolded, Elon began to notice something surprising: the unshakable strength of community. In a place where resources were scarce, People relied on each other in ways he'd never seen before. His first encounter with this spirit of collaboration came when he visited a local park where a group of teenagers had started a garden to provide fresh vegetables to nearby families. They had used discarded wood and donated soil to transform a neglected lot into a thriving green space. Elon was struck by their ingenuity and determination to solve problems with no resources or formal training. Later that day, he joined a block party organized by the neighborhood association. It was a vibrant, lively event, full of people sharing food, trading stories, and catching up on the latest news. Despite lacking wealth and power, these people had something Elon realized he had been missing: genuine connection. As he sat with an older man named Mr. Morales, a retired teacher mentoring local youth, Elon reflected on the profound difference between the Bronx and his own world. Here, success wasn't measured in dollars or accolades. It was measured by the strength of relationships and mutual support. As the block party wound down, Elon helped clean up, feeling a growing sense of admiration for the community he had come to understand. The Bronx was teaching him lessons he hadn't anticipated, sparking a desire to do more and breach the walls he now straddled. By the end of his week, Elon had experienced something transformative. The people of the Bronx were the true innovators. They built something from nothing every day, not with technology, but with resilience, creativity, and community. Progress, he realized, wasn't just about technology. It was about people. Was teaching his cousin how to engage with people and build relationships. Ele watched closely, fascinated by how Malek had turned a simple street corner into a thriving business by connecting with people in the community. His understanding of entrepreneurship was being redefined. It wasn't about profits or bottom lines. It was about creating value, connections, and trust. Later that morning, he visited the Bronx's Tech Hub, a small community space where young people gathered to work on coding projects and startups with limited resources. The space was basic, but the energy was palpable. The teenagers worked on everything from app development to building robots out of recycled parts. Elon spoke to a few of them, and one young woman named Yara shared how she had taught herself to code by watching YouTube tutorials and using 3 online resources. The dream was to start a business that would help underserved communities access technology. "You don't need a fancy lab," she said, "just a computer and a little bit of hope."